Is Dylan Wang a heartthrob or a heartbreaker, and are the love stories surrounding his name genuine romance or carefully polished illusions designed for headlines? And if you think you already know the truth, then slow down right now, because what insiders whisper about his most controversial relationships is far more complicated, far more strategic, and far more emotional than the public has ever seen. And if you want to uncover every hidden tension, every quiet fallout, and the behind closed doors moments that changed everything, then stay with us until the very end, because the final revelation may flip the entire narrative on its head. It always starts the same way. A casting announcement. A viral photo. Two stars standing a little too close. A glance held a second longer than necessary. Suddenly, the internet decides. They are together. Fan edits appear overnight. Soft music overlays. Slow motion smiles. Timelines are built. Moments from interviews stitched into proof. And Dylan's name sits right in the middle of it all. Again. And again. But people who work behind studio gates say reality is rarely that cinematic. One former crew member described watching Dylan sit quietly between takes, scrolling his phone while speculation about his love life exploded online. He barely reacted. They said it was like he was reading about someone else. That disconnect is what made some insiders start questioning everything. Was the chaos accidental or curated? According to several industry sources, Dylan relationships have often been tangled in marketing plans, contract negotiations, and audience engagement strategies. Not because he demanded it, but because attention in this business is currency. And romance sells. One publicist who refused to be named admitted, if two leads trend well together, the pressure to keep that story alive is enormous. Even if the feelings are uncertain. Especially if the feelings are uncertain. That is where the controversy begins. Because fans want sincerity. They want fairy tales. They want certainty. But the machine around celebrity does not always wait for hearts to catch up. One particularly famous pairing sparked months of speculation after Dylan and a co-star were spotted leaving the same restaurant late at night. Separate cars. Separate exits. Yet somehow the photos made it look coordinated. The next morning headlines screamed secret dates.
Hidden romance.
New power couple. Inside the studio, people were baffled. They had just finished a production meeting. One assistant whispered, "We were all there. Producers. Writers, stylists." It was work, but the internet had already written the ending. Dylan reportedly called his manager that afternoon asking why his phone would not stop vibrating. He was confused. They said. Not excited. Confused. The narrative kept growing anyway. Another relationship rumor followed months later. This one louder. Messier. Fueled by cryptic captions and coincidental travel schedules. Fans split into factions. Some swore the love was real. Others insisted it was staged. Talk shows debated. Comment sections burned. Reaction videos multiplied. And through it all, Dylan kept giving the same careful interviews. "I focus on my work. I value privacy. I do not like explaining rumors." Those lines only made people more suspicious. Because in celebrity culture, silence is rarely treated as neutral. It becomes evidence. Insiders describe tense meetings behind closed doors. Agents asking how far a storyline should go. Brands watching metrics. Studios calculating buzz. Dylan sitting in the middle trying to look bored while everyone else treated his personal life like a chessboard. One source claimed. He once asked, "Why does my dating life have more strategy meetings than my scripts?" That joke did not land. Because it was too close to the truth. Then there were the moments that complicated everything. The private ones. Away from cameras. Away from publicists. Late-night phone calls. Arguments overheard through thin hotel walls. Friends being dragged in to translate feelings that could not be posted online. A stylist once described seeing Dylan leave a rehearsal looking drained after a heated conversation with someone fans thought he was happily linked to. He did not look like a man enjoying publicity. They said. He looked like someone trying to breathe. That is where the toxic versus true love debate truly ignites. Because some relationships around him appeared intense. fast-moving, public, full of symbolic gestures, only to dissolve quietly weeks later.
No announcements, no closure.
Just sudden distance. Fans cried manipulation. Critics shouted publicity. But insiders whispered something softer and sadder. People got hurt. Feelings were real, even if the packaging was not. One former acquaintance put it bluntly. Imagine falling for someone while millions of strangers storyboard your relationship. Every smile analyzed. Every pause punished. That messes with anyone. Dylan's friends reportedly worried about how guarded he had become, how carefully he chose words, how often he avoided being photographed with anyone outside work. They say he started declining invitations to group dinners, leaving events early, keeping his circle tight, not because he was hiding something, but because he was tired of feeding narratives he did not recognize. At one point, after yet another wave of rumors, he allegedly told a close friend, "I feel like I am dating the internet, not the person." That sentence spread quietly among insiders and became something of a legend, because it captured the entire problem. So were his relationships toxic? Were they real? Or were they real people trapped inside artificial storms? Those close to him argue it is the last one. They insist Dylan never set out to play games, that he genuinely tried to explore connections while protecting his career, that sometimes he stayed longer than he should have, that sometimes he walked away too fast, that sometimes he misjudged how much pressure the spotlight added, which sounds less like villainy and more like a human being stumbling through fame. Still,
Critics point to patterns.
repeated overlaps, carefully timed sightings, romance rumors aligning suspiciously well with premieres. They argue that coincidence only stretches so far, that someone somewhere was always nudging the narrative. The truth likely lives in the uncomfortable middle, where affection meets agenda, where private emotion collides with public branding, where two people can care for each other while also being swept into something much bigger than them. What makes Dylan's story so explosive is not that he dated. It is that his dating life became a battleground between authenticity and spectacle, between silence and spin, between wanting something real and being surrounded by people who benefit from fantasy. So toxic or true love? The answer, maybe neither. And both. At the same time, a series of imperfect connections, amplified by fame, distorted by algorithms, and frozen forever in screenshots. If you want the next chapter, what insiders claim Dylan said after the most recent rumor storm, which relationship nearly pushed him to step back from the spotlight, and the one boundary he has finally started enforcing, then stay close because this story is far from over, and the next revelation might be the most revealing one yet.